Welcome to Legion Radio, a podcast about all things e-commerce, the official podcast of the private label Legion, hosted by Tim Jordan.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Legion Radio, the official podcast of the private label Legion. Today, we are doing the episode not in our normal podcast studio. We are in Australia, and we're at the 2019 Retail Global Conference here in Gold Coast, which is an awesome venue. It is the largest e-commerce conference, e-retailers conference in Australia, New Zealand, right?
And the best one.
Okay. So I'm here with Callie Sophianopoulos. Did I say it right?
Good try.
Yes. Okay. Not perfect. And she and I had connected a little bit online prior to me coming down here. Maybe would have never met in person if I hadn't been here. And she has kind of a cool little history starting off with her entrepreneurial journey, moving into e-commerce and how she was introduced to that. We're going to talk about that a little bit. We're also going to talk about her journey of beginning to sell on Amazon, which started selling in the US because Amazon Australia was not available at the time. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the future and maybe even the past, the recent past of Amazon Australia. And just kind of go through some of that. So it's going to be some good information in here. And I'm super excited to have Callie here with us. We shacked up that's the wrong term, right? I shouldn't say we shacked up. But we shacked up here in this conference room that we did not rent. So if in the middle of the episode you see people come in and start physically moving us, just ignore all the hype background imagery. It's okay. But we may get run out of here. It's all right. We didn't want to be out in the noisy lobby, but I definitely want to make sure to interview her in person. So anyways, Callie, thank you for being on.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Really appreciative of the opportunity. Yeah. And I am kind of a little bit nervous on camera. So yeah, let's see how I go.
I'm sure it'll be great. So give us like the 2-minute intro to what you were doing prior to e-commerce. All right. So you had a translation business, right?
That's right. I'm a professional legal translator. I did start selling on eBay a few years back. I went from that to doing some Amazon FBM in the USA. And
now, how did that start? You're a translator, and you're sitting around on your couch watching Grey's Anatomy one night. I don't know. I'm just speculating. I'm just making something up here.
Well, this is it. I don't watch TV, so okay. I was looking for a side gig.
Looking for a side gig. So, of all the side gigs out there, why did you pick Amazon, especially when you had to sell on a platform that was on the other side of the world?
I had no idea what it was about. I mean, I heard the hype that people are actually selling well there compared to eBay in the USA. But I had no idea how to do that, and I had no idea what I was doing. I just uploaded a whole heap of SKUs on the platform and just waited for them to sell.
So you had inventory in the US?
No. So I was doing FBM from here.
From here, so you were shipping from Australia?
Exactly.
And what was the shipping time, like 2 weeks, 14 days?
No, I had some pretty good rates with Australia Post.
So Australia Post is like
the equivalent of UPS.
Okay. And you had good rates. So, but you must have been selling probably some high dollar items, right? Were they?
Not necessarily. So it's the customer doesn't care. So my products were all men's accessories. If somebody wants a green tie in that particular shade, that's what they want, and they don't care if they're going to pay $20 plus $20 shipping for it to come from Australia. Amazon does have a little bit of a hitch in the back end when you're selling internationally, and it will tell the customer, it will come up with a little bit of a note there that it may take up to 28 days to get there. It never did with me because of whatever express post I was using, etc.
So let me ask you this. You're watching Grey's Anatomy on your couch, as we talked about, right?
Not watching
Grey's Anatomy, but you're a translator and you decide, hey, I'm going to sell on Amazon. How did you pick products? Like you said, you're in men's accessories. Were you just grabbing something out of a hat and just saying, this is what I'm going to sell? Exactly. And you were sourcing these products from Australia or from China?
No, most of my products are from China, but a lot of them are from Europe. I've got a lot of silk ties and accessories from Europe. Really good quality stuff. But I wasn't doing what we're doing today. I mean, now I know what I'm doing, but that's not what I was doing. All I was doing was uploading a file, a CSV file, a flat file that was coming from my own website that had thousands and thousands of SKUs, and I didn't need to store them anywhere. I had my warehouse.
So you already had products you were selling here.
Exactly.
So the story's not adding up. You were a translator, but you had a warehouse with thousands of SKUs. So wait a second. Let's back up. Where did the warehouse come from, and where did the thousands of SKUs come from?
That started with a small eBay business.
Okay. And for those of you who don't know, eBay is still king in Australia.
It is.
Has been, still is, probably will be for a while. Mm-hmm. So you were a translator and you'd started an eBay business. And I'm assuming over a handful of years, you ramped it up to the point where you had your own distribution system, your own warehouse, and you were warehousing your own materials.
That's exactly it.
Okay, got it.
And
so you left that out of the story. So now it makes more sense. Okay. So you've got all this inventory here. You've got your own distribution. You've got your own good parcel shipping to the U.S. Mm-hmm. So you basically took your existing catalog, boom, popped it onto Amazon.
Exactly.
FBM listings and...
Mm-hmm. And people obviously were seeing a listing with, say, $20 or $30 worth of value plus another $20 of shipping for it to perhaps come up to 28 days later. So obviously I wasn't getting the sales that an FBA seller was getting. What I was getting was anywhere between 1 and 5 sales a week. Whoop-de-da. I was making a lot more from my website. I was making a lot more from eBay at the time.
And this is like 2017-ish?
This is 2015-ish, 16-ish. And at some point, I heard that I could send my product to FBA, and here's where the fear set in. Because essentially, I've got my warehouse here. I've got full control of everything.
Yeah.
I send the product to the USA.
And now you've lost you've tied up your inventory.
Yes,
you can't sell it on multiple platforms.
Exactly. Because up to that point, I had the same product, and I know that I said I had 5,000 SKUs, but 5,000 SKUs, I had products that I had 200 pieces of, but I also had products that I had 5 or 10 or 20 pieces of, and I wasn't in a hurry to replenish because when you've got a men's accessories store and you've got thousands and thousands of ties, people just go scrolling through and they'll choose whatever they want in terms of colour and quality, etc. But on Amazon, it's a case of that one product can sell 200.
Yeah.
I didn't know all this. I thought I'd give it a try. I wanted to send a small box there and give it a shot. Today, there's a lot more information here in Australia. And today there's a lot more information because Amazon has come here and a lot of people are now selling into Amazon USA as well. But at the time, I was hearing that I needed an LLC in the USA to sell, and that wasn't correct. I was told that I needed to pay all sorts of different taxes in the USA if I was going to send my products over there. I heard the word nexus, and it was just not really resonating with me why somebody from Australia that wanted to sell a handful of products.
That's all right. Most of the sellers in the US don't know what nexus is either.
Exactly. So now I know this.
We just ignore it.
I do ignore it today. But there was a lot of scary things, and a lot of it had to do with the fact that Amazon won't get your products out of customs. When I was sending a product FBM, it was essentially the customer that was the importer. I pretty much had nothing to do with anything in terms of customs or anything else, provided that I just sent the product to them. So all of that stuff was really, really, really scary, and I was getting a lot of bad advice from the US channels, because now I'm on Facebook and I'm looking at what other Amazon sellers are doing in the USA. And
if they're in the US, they can't advise you on how to sell when you're not in the US.
But they were, yes.
Okay.
And that was the tricky bit. at that point, found a couple of people here who gave me some really good advice. I made up a really, really small box. I think from memory it was either 36 or 38 units. It was a really, really small box. I learned how to prep and label myself because I realised that now it wasn't in my warehouse and I knew that, the yellow such and such tie, let's pick it. And I stuck everything in the box and I just sent it in. Well, by the time it got there, it was just sold out. And we know that Amazon has got a knack of doing that, especially in that first few days of that wonderful honeymoon period of an FBA listing. And then I was very, very lucky that my products were small and light. I packed a 20-kilo box, which in US terms is 40-something pounds.
48 pounds, 44 pounds,
42-ish, 43-ish, something like that. Yeah, filled up a box and I sent it in. And again, I was making the same mistake. I was sending 200 SKUs, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 units of each. And they just got snapped up. And as long as I had stock in inventory in the USA, it was actually selling. The minute I stopped having stock in inventory, it stopped selling. And all of a sudden now I've got product in storage that I've replenished a month later, and it's doing nothing. So I learned the hard way.
So for those that are listening, that have been or are in different countries that want to sell in the U.S., it sounds like the biggest struggle is not all the platform stuff and the legal stuff. The biggest struggle, and I would have guessed this, but I want to confirm this, what you're saying, is inventory management. It's holy crap, I got to send all this inventory over here and hope that it doesn't, get lost. It doesn't just sit there and, that I'm actually sending enough to keep my sales going too.
And we're actually paying from the get-go. I mean, I know that as a larger seller in the USA, you would eventually have a 3PL managing your inventory. But as a smaller seller, when you're first starting out, you don't think of those things. From the get-go, I had to have a 3PL managing any excess inventory, any inventory that was being returned, because Amazon will not send my unfulfillables back to Australia. They want a USA address. So I had to make all those kinds of additional payments that Amazon sellers in the USA don't have to think about.
Sure. All right. So you're eventually getting an FBA. You're presumably doing pretty well. I mean, you're making some money. You figured it out. Then they announced that Amazon is coming to Australia. What was your initial response to that?
I loved it. I got excited. I jumped on the beta program. I was going into the back end of Seller Central waiting for that next feature to come up, because even up to today, Seller Central on Amazon Australia compared to Seller Central on Amazon USA, not nearly as many features. I mean, we still don't have pay-per-click. There's a lot of things that are missing still. And it's happening.
You don't even have PPC?
No, we don't have PPC yet. It's coming because we do now have an advertising tab. So it is coming.
Wow.
I'm going to say in days, if not, yeah.
So I just talked to a project manager for Amazon that said in like 2 days they're making a big announcement for a feature.
I think that's what it is.
Really? Because I was assuming it was going to be some like advanced thing, but they're just rolling out PPC.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Amazon Australia officially opened in 2017.
17, yes.
And was it originally all fulfilled by merchant? Do they already have fulfillment centers and FBA centers?
No. The first fulfillment center opened in 2018. That was in Melbourne. And then the second one in Sydney. And that's all we've got. We've got 2 small fulfillment centers.
So FBA Australia, is it still 2-day shipping?
Yes, it is. Well, there is same-day shipping in the Central Business District in Melbourne. They do have some faster prime choices. They're not look, we're a big country. We're a huge country, and we're really, really far apart from each other.
Because Perth is like the other side of the world from Sydney, and there's nothing but desert in between. And
yeah, I mean,
so the logistics infrastructure isn't really there.
By plane is 5 or 6 hours to the other side. and then you've also got, in those areas, one house will be here and the next house is a farm 100 kilometres away, which in US terms is how many miles?
I don't know. Don't make me do math. I'm jet lagged. I can't do math. So it made a slow roll in. Now, this is the story that I got. Well, when I flew over here, I knew that Amazon Australia was struggling, to say the least. And when I say that, I mean there wasn't a lot of traffic.
Yes.
There's not a lot of people shopping on it, which in turn creates a problem where not a lot of people are listing on it, because why are you going to list on a platform that doesn't have traffic? But then that gets in that reciprocal problem, because if you don't have listings, you're not going to increase your traffic, right? So the other thing that I heard was Amazon kind of made a poor tactical decision in announcing that they were coming to Australia long before they were ready, which gave all the local competitors time to get ready. So local retailers that were doing online sales started ramping up for 2-day delivery, and eBay really invested.
We got catch.com.au around about that time because they wanted to compete directly, and that's another amazing platform that we've got. And I'm platform agnostic, although I love Amazon and I believe that it is the fastest growing platform in the world, and for any e-commerce seller anywhere around the world, it has to be that first choice. But here in Australia, we do have a lot of marketplaces now, and that's thanks to Amazon. Amazon kind of created that culture, and people jumped on to take advantage of the Amazon hype. That said, I don't think that they've made a huge mistake. One thing that I'm saying, because I'm talking to a lot of people that work at Amazon, I went to them probably about a year ago and I was saying to them, okay, you've got to do something. There are so many drop shippers shipping a $20 product from the USA for $200 here in Australia. People are going onto your Facebook page and they are criticising it because people don't understand the
third-party
logistics,
shippers control prices, and
third-party sellers.
Yeah, so they're just going to this new Amazon Australia, saying everything is way more expensive than it should be.
Exactly, and
it's ruining the perception of Amazon.
Exactly. So they're going. So they're going to the Amazon page, and they're saying, Amazon's rip-off and really high prices and what have you. And I'm going back to eBay, and there's nothing really wrong with that, but we want Amazon to grow. And from all the conversations that I've had, Amazon has got one, or the whole culture behind what's happening now on Amazon Australia, they've got one goal and one goal only: to get as many sellers on the platform with local inventory, with reasonable prices, so that they have a large amount of products and they don't care what else is happening. That's what their KPIs tell them to do. That's their only goal for this year and probably even next year. And once they have the product, everything else will come. Now, we've got to understand that a project like Amazon is not a 5-month project. Yep. I know that I felt that it was when, I jumped on it straight away. I loved it. I was excited. Being in Australia, I wanted to be the first one on the platform. I was probably about the 50th. But that does not mean that all of a sudden from one day to the next, we're going to have the same kind of breadth and depth of product that you've got in the USA. And you've got to understand that there's 26 million of us. There's 320-something million of you guys. We love selling on Amazon USA because there's so many of you guys to sell to. We're never going to be a huge marketplace, even just by mere fact of the numbers. There's not as many of us buying. So, it's exciting. I think they're on the right track. I think that once the numbers do stack up, there's going to be a lot more buyers. But we've got a huge advantage that you guys don't have. You guys can't list barbecue gloves today.
Yes.
We can. And we can get top sales on page one. Top sales will be around about $3,000 a month. But we're first on the market. And when they do get to be 10 or 20,000 a month, which is probably the equivalent of $100,000 or $200,000 in sales in the USA, because that's the percentage of the market that we've got over there, we're going to have a real good business going here. Yeah.
So let me summarize that. And that's also what I've determined. What you're saying is what I've determined. Because, I knew that Amazon Australia did not match expectations when it launched. Mm-hmm. It basically took a big giant dump, and everybody was really upset about it. And I expected to hear a lot of people complaining about that, a lot of discussion about that when I got here. And I have seen some of that. I've seen some people that were very frustrated. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I've seen though is a little bit of like hope for an opportunity, because one, since it took a big dump and that kind of dominated the news, a lot of people have taken Australia off the radar. And a lot of people have tested the Australian market and said there's no volume here, it's not selling, forget it, right? But they don't understand that it's because consumers are not on Australia or Amazon Australia yet. So I agree. Now I'm a little bit more hopeful. I'm actually a lot more hopeful for the opportunities of selling on Amazon.au, because so many people have dismissed it. And I think it's coming. I think it's just slower, because the culture and society of Australia is very Western. It's like the U.S. It's like most of Europe.
Oh, absolutely.
People are going to shop on it, but because there are so many hiccups to begin with, that I think it's just slow. But like what you were just saying, that creates a tremendous opportunity, because the competition right now is low, and you can rank for anything. You can get number one
Absolutely.
spot. I was looking today with a guy. I was in this little consulting thing where like big brands, like big U.S. brands that have, SKUs with 10,000 reviews, legit reviews in the U.S., our one merchant fulfilled listing here was 0 reviews. I'm like, oh my goodness, people are buying these things. So it was actually really encouraging. But I will tell you another problem that I've seen is, especially the Australian private label sellers have basically run out of money, because they invested a lot, or at least some of them, a lot of them actually have invested a lot of money into inventory here, because they know we have to have the inventory before we have the traffic, but the inventory is not selling. So now they're going, well, shoot, I invested all this money. It's kind of a catch-22.
And I think next month we're getting charged our first long-term storage fees.
Oh, that's just coming. So it's been 2 years, and you're just now getting long-term storage fees.
It's been about a year and a half. Yeah,
crazy.
Just over.
So here's what I think, and tell me if you agree with this. Amazon platform is probably a better opportunity than most people realize. Amazon Australia platform, because it got a lot of bad press. There's a lot of people that have maybe tested or seen the data and said this isn't good. So it is the Wild West. You can rank for anything. You can become a top seller.
Absolutely.
As long as you can wait it out.
And as long as you don't make the mistake of taking a strategy that you would normally apply in the USA. You and I have had this chat behind the scenes, and I've pretty much realised that you're on board with this. You don't like sending 1,000 units of one product. You want to test the waters first. Yeah. But a lot of people are doing that in the USA, and I've found that a lot of people lost a lot of money in the USA as well doing that. But here in Australia, you can't just dump 500 units of a product into FBA and just wait for it to sell. It's just not going to happen. There's not enough sales there. What I say to people is, if you're already selling somewhere else, grab a handful, grab 10, 20 units.
Go ahead and establish yourself, maybe get a couple reviews.
Play with it, and when pay-per-click comes, we'll be able to play with that as well and start. In the meantime, I've seen sellers right now selling 100, 200 units a month. That's huge for Amazon Australia now. And 100, 200 units a month of one product is just nothing like any other platform. If you're selling on eBay and on your own website, you probably know that you need a large amount of SKUs to make enough sales to sustain a business. Whereas on Amazon, 200 of the one SKU will actually sell, even here in Australia.
Gotcha.
Even right now.
So now let's be thinking about, or let's speak to the audience of folks in the U.S., folks in Europe, folks in other platforms, or in other locations that want to get into Amazon Australia. You've got FBA, so stuff can be sent here. You'd agree with me when I say don't overcommit because it may sit here for a while. What other sticking points or what other things do we need to consider when it comes to importing goods into Australia? I know that there are third-party logistics companies that can import for us. We don't have to have a separate business entity to sell in Australia.
No, you don't.
All that stuff's taken care of. What little pitfalls would I, as a seller that's trying to get into Australia, need to be aware of that you can kind of give me some advice on?
The importing into Australia at the moment, there's the 10% GST that people need to consider.
The what?
10% GST.
GST.
Goods and services tax. That essentially means that any product that comes into the country needs to have that. It's the equivalent of your state sales tax, but for us it's across the country.
And that is once the product sells?
No,
or is that an import?
That's an import.
So it's just like a straight 10% duty?
The difference is that Amazon is taking care of that for FBA sellers.
Okay.
So,
and that's if you ship straight to FBA?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
If you're shipping through a third-party customs broker or importer, then
somebody has to be responsible for that.
But if I ship a box air freight straight to Amazon FBA.au or .com.au, then they'll take care of that 10% for me.
That they will take care of that 10% upon sale of the product. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's good to know. What about compliance? Because I was talking to a guy yesterday who owns a brand in Sydney that does like industrial goods, and I was asking about some of these big brands like 3M and some of these, and he said I was asking about the U.S. products. He said that there are actually some compliance standards in Australia that are different than the U.S.
Yeah.
Can you give us maybe a little clarification on that?
I found it as well, and obviously I wouldn't know every single product, but I found that as well, where we send products to the USA, and it's easy peasy, and then we send it. We try to sell it here, and we need some additional compliance, and that depends on the product. So, children's products, whether it's a chemical, whether it's an electrical product, everything needs different standards and certificates all over the world.
So where can I find those standards? Is there an Australian government website or something where I can get those standards and that information?
They will be different for each product. The ACCC is the equivalent of the CPSC in the USA.
And that's for children's products.
That's for children's and for anything consumer. But I work really, really closely with UL.com, and I know that there are other companies that
SGS is one of them.
Exactly. Yeah. And essentially what you want is to have a company that already knows what compliance issues you're going to have, what kind of standards you're going to have to comply with, and what certificates. Especially if you're manufacturing overseas and if your product is coming from China. With private label sellers, I find that a lot of them don't understand that they're the manufacturers of record, they're the importers of record, and that any compliance certificates need to come in their names.
Yep.
And yes, the factory may or may not have done some sort of testing, but that testing, I've found that I've asked for testing from some Chinese manufacturers, and they'll give me the European standards. So every single country has got different types of standards. Just make sure that the ones that your product complies with the standards of the country where you're going to be selling.
But Australia doesn't have anything crazy. There's not like some super weird thing that we all need to be warned about and aware of, or we're just going to get completely
Not
screwed.
really. They are going to be different. So one example with children's bean bags. We have to have all the zipper pulls taken off because there have been kids that have opened the zipper, crawled in and suffocated and died.
Really?
Yes, and this has happened in the USA as well. And the standard does not exist in the USA. So we've tried to sell these same bean bags in the USA, and we've made some images that tell people that this is the way you're going to open the zipper. The zipper pulls have been taken off for safety reasons. They comply with international standards, etc. And every second day we'd be getting a negative review saying that the zippers were broken. So we had to pull those products out in the end because we had...
That almost sounds like a sales proposition. Like you could actually advertise, this is the only beanbag on Amazon.com that's safe.
We were, and it still didn't work. People weren't reading the listing, they weren't reading the bullet points, they weren't reading the images, they weren't looking at the images that were showing them how to open them, the videos even, and even the product itself. It came with some huge labels on it that had a zipper with a paper clip that you needed to use to open the damn zipper. And we're still getting the negative reviews.
All right, so right now your game plan, keep selling on Amazon, US, and your big platform here is still eBay. And I'm sure that's...
Yeah, for most people, website, not for myself, but yes, for most people. And I've had some amazing conversations this week. It's been an eye-opener. I've spoken to eBay personnel and Amazon personnel here, and one thing that I'm getting from everybody is that Amazon coming here is actually fixing up a lot of the bad things that were happening on eBay as well. So the competition is actually proving to be good for sellers, good for buyers. Algorithms are changing for the positive. We're getting a lot more things happening online, and I think that the future is just going to be brighter and brighter.
And I keep hearing that Australia is a little bit slower when it comes to trends. And a lot, as opposed to a lot of other Western countries. I was seeing some data this week that like 14% of physical products sold in the U.S. are sold online, but here it's only 10%. But we're expecting that to catch up pretty quickly, right?
Yeah. The thing is that we have huge shopping centres. Where online comes into play is those remote areas that I described earlier that, next house 100 kilometres away, you're not going to jump into the car to find the next shopping centre. We do have some really good shopping centres here. And we've got a shopping centre in most areas where there's a large population. But our postage has been really, really slow. And it's slow because it takes a while to get on the plane and go 5 hours away, and that's just if you're going in person. So obviously when you're sending a parcel, it's going to take that much longer. But guess what? What's happening now with Amazon? They're raising the bar. And because Amazon is able to offer in certain areas even same day shipping, which was almost never available in Australia, Australia Post is ramping up their game, and a lot of the couriers are doing the same, and they're trying to find ways of giving us cheaper service as well, because for us a small parcel, the smallest parcel we can send, retail rates are around about $10 for a 500 gram parcel. That's just a small little nothing. One of my ties, I would have to spend $10 for it to go from one side of Melbourne to the other. Those prices are now getting better and better. We're getting better contract rates for e-commerce sellers, which some of the really big players in the industry used to have good rates. Now everybody's getting better and better rates, and we're getting a lot faster service as well.
Nice. So moral of the story is Amazon Australia is going to have a smaller audience in the US, of course.
Absolutely.
Right now it's slow, but it's the Wild West as far as opportunities. So if we can be patient, if we can invest some time, energy, effort, and inventory, it should be easy to place ourselves as top sellers in Amazon Australia. And the reason that Amazon Australia has been slow to take off things like not inefficient, but kind of underdeveloped logistics systems in the country, poor consumer confidence because of a poor launch, and lack of catalog and competition, driving that price down to the Amazon flywheel spinning. Those things should correct themselves, right?
I reckon that I think that they had a plan. It was a good plan. It's just slow. I don't think that it was poorly implemented. I think that they needed to get us excited. Most of the hype was with the sellers. We knew that Amazon was opening. It was in the news. The consumers didn't. We had to get hyped up. We had to get excited. We had to get our products on board. We still have to put in, and I still see sellers say, "Oh, yeah, what's the point of being on Amazon?" It's just. What's it going to cost you, especially if you're a private label seller? As a private label seller, and I don't like the term myself. I brand my own products, so I'm a brand owner. But as a brand owner, you want to be on every single platform that you can be on. You want to have, you want to be on eBay and Amazon and on Google Shopping and on catch.com.au. You want wherever somebody is going to type neckties for men, for your brand to come up under that.
I agree. All right, awesome. So most of the, we could split it up. But most of the listeners of this podcast are going to be in the U.S. and they're thinking about expanding globally. That's kind of a hot topic right now. So aside from the information that we've given now, I know there's some resources that you offer to help folks. One of them is you have a Facebook group called Private Label Australia. Is that right? Do you have a Facebook page also?
That's right.
All right, so check out the page, check out the Facebook group. It's just Private Label Australia. Little maroon logo, if I remember that correctly. Shouldn't be hard to miss. Check that out for sure, because there's going to be local folks that can help you with that. Callie's in there. You run that, right? You run that kind of organization?
Yes, I do.
And then she also does some consulting and training, isn't that right?
Absolutely. I do one-on-one consulting for companies, brands, anybody that wants to get started out. But absolutely, the group is the best resource. It is not a course. I didn't start it as a course. I started it as it was a free group at one point, and what it was basically me answering thousands and thousands of questions. It had to. That's not sustainable, as you know. Once I started collecting all those resources, it's just turned into. Do you know Facebook units? That's my best resource right now. I've just pretty much put everything there, and it's in some sort of order.
So there is information. There are assets that you can take advantage of. There are experts here. And if you're just getting started in e-commerce, if you're just launching your first brand or your first private label, this probably isn't something that you want to be thinking about, because it's not going to, move the speedometer very fast for the amount of work that you're gonna be doing. But we all, as brand owners, need to be thinking about this, because Australia is actually fairly easy to implement with similar marketing and similar, language and all that stuff that we're doing from .com right now. So, like going to Germany is tough, because there's all this VAT stuff and there's all this, you got to have the translations on it.
Yeah.
Australia fundamentally is fairly easy to transition into. If you are big enough that you can allocate some of those resources, time, energy, effort, and outsource it to make it happen. And I think that it's going to be worth it. I think it's a good investment, because Amazon.com.au is going to be a pretty large sustainable platform, and you can get it on the ground floor right now. Like, you can get there. I keep calling it the Wild Wild West. They haven't even launched PPC yet. I mean, it's like right now you can rank for anything that you want to on page one tomorrow with no competition, or very little competition, super easy. So take advantage of it. Callie, thank you so much for letting us interview you. This is huge. We'll share this to your audience too.
Yes, please.
Those of you that are listening that haven't done so already, check out our Facebook group too, Private Label Legion. Check out our Facebook page, Private Label Legion. Hit us up on YouTube. If you're listening to this through a podcast platform, you can go to privatelabellegion.tv, or just go to YouTube and type in Tim Jordan or Private Label Legion. It'll pop up. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to this on iTunes, Google Play. We've got Podbean and all those other podcast platforms. Take advantage of it, because it's free information that's going to help you guys increase your sales, build your business, make more money, hopefully make a little more freedom for yourself. So, Callie, thank you again for being here. Any last words that you want to share?
Thank you. How'd you like the Gold Coast?
Gold Coast is beautiful.
Oh my God.
It's beautiful, but I'll tell you, I froze my butt off. Because it's
Are you serious?
It's the end of May, and I'm thinking the end of May is summer, like in my brain. And it's a beautiful beach, and it's sunny. And I went jogging one morning, and it was like 50 degrees. It just froze my tail off. So, got to remember, Southern Hemisphere is off.
It is the middle of winter.
but it's beautiful here. If you guys ever get an opportunity to come out to Australia, make sure to check out the Gold Coast this week. So
we've had a wonderful time the last 3 days, and it's almost over.
It's almost over. All right, thank you, Callie. Thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Thank you. Bye.
You've just wrapped up another episode of Legion Radio, hosted by Tim Jordan. Past episodes, links, and show notes can be found at privatelabellegion.com.